One nuclear weapon.
Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Minister harps on soft power diplomacy approach. International observers congratulate Liberia on peaceful vote. Plus, residents of Gaza face severe humanitarian crisis as Palestine-Israel conflict escalates. These are just some of the major highlights on the program this week. Do sit back as it promises to be an informative one. I am Abdul Salam Jubril. Welcome to Global Updates. Now, let's begin in Nigeria, where the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tugar, says taking advantage of Nigeria's soft power diplomacy on the African continent and beyond is a major foreign policy thrust of the present administration. The minister stated this while inaugurating a 9-member committee that seeks to review and expand the mandate of the Directorate of Technical Aid Corps, DTAC.
With development, I gave the example of Guyana that has just discovered hydrocarbons, oil and gas. We have had, we've been producing oil and gas here since 1957. So we have a lot of petroleum engineers, geologists, accountants, what have you, that we can send to countries like Guyana. Guyana is going to be like the next Kuwait. They have a lot of oil and gas and very little population, but then we can also generate revenue from that. It doesn't just have to be aid. We can earn from it. So this is how we can reposition a technical aid corps. Demography, finding more jobs for our people through the same technical aid corps. Diaspora, also, again, we want Nigerians, when they go out, to be respected. They go out with dignity. We can accept that we are a large population and we're a net exporter of skilled workers. But then we negotiate with countries in such a manner that when they go out, they're respected, they're allowed to take their families along, their wives can work, their kids can go to school, because in a lot of countries, they just want the worker to come alone and with very little respect, very little dignity. So we want to change that.
Nigeria is fortunate to have a very positive youth population. In some countries, you don't have the youth population. Maybe 70 or 80% are all adults. That is why they need or have to import a lot of manpower from other countries. So what do we do with our positive demography? What do we do with our youth population? So we have to look at how to harness that positively. And that is where the DTAC comes in. We, just like the minister says, it's not just about exporting manpower as a humanitarian service, but also exporting manpower to earn revenue. So our large number of youthful population is an advantage. We can use it also as a revenue earner. And then the last D is diaspora. Still taking advantage of our population, positive population. We have Nigerians all over the world, in our millions, and impacting in different areas of endeavor. If you go even to the developed world, like the United States of America or the United Kingdom, you find Nigerians occupying political positions, neither in terms of appointment or in terms of elective offices. We have Nigerians in the House of Representatives in the US and so on. And we have Nigerians being appointed by President Biden to occupy key positions in the American government. So what do we do to maximize and also take advantage of our diasporans? Because on the other hand, we have some negative sides from our diaspora. So this government is trying to make sure that we bring our diasporans closer, we coordinate them, and then we use them positively, as I say in my own words, as marketers of Nigeria.
Now, the immediate past president of the World Medical Association, WMA, Dr. Osahon Enabulele, says during his tenure as president, he was able to consolidate on the gains and advance initiatives that have transformed the WMA into a more visible organization. He stated this during his valedictory session at the 74th General Assembly of the WMA held in Kigali, Rwanda.
As I formally hand over the baton, I wish to assure our members that I will continue to totally commit myself to the mission, vision, and strategic objectives of the WMA. I also wish to once again urge our members to remain faithful and committed to the WMA. Our members should always remember that for the WMA to be truly strong, the tree of the WMA must continually be watered by our collective efforts. I cannot end this address without paying special tribute to all our colleagues who lost their lives in the last 1 year. May their great souls rest in perfect peace. I wish my successor in office, the very amiable, resplendent Dr. Lujane Akodmani, success in her tenure.
World where gender disparities are glaring, the time for action is now. During the COVID pandemic, we witnessed a shocking ratio. Only 1 woman was vaccinated among 3 men in some countries. This disparity is not only limited to vaccinations, but also extends to maternal health care. I feel incredibly grateful for the opportunities I had to receive top-notch maternal health care service when I welcomed my daughter Yasmin this past February. However, it pains me to acknowledge that this privilege isn't a universal reality for countless of women around the globe. Inequalities persist in many corners of the world, and it's disheartening to know that according to the World Health Organization, even in the European Union, where women tend to outlive men, a significant portion of them spend most of their lives in poor health. These disparities reach well beyond health.
To Liberia now, international observers have praised the West African country for the peaceful conduct of its presidential and parliamentary elections. 20 candidates contested the presidential race, including incumbent George Weah and his main rival, Joseph Boakai.
It was congratulations all round on a job well done. Observers praised Liberia for the peaceful conduct of its presidential and parliamentary elections held on Tuesday. 20 candidates contested the presidential race, including incumbent George Weah and his main rival Joseph Boakai. The Community of West African States and the African Union congratulated both the government and the Election Commission for the organisation of the polls.
Overall, the mission notes that the Liberians were able to freely exercise their constitutional rights in peaceful elections, and therefore implores all aggrieved parties to use the existing election dispute resolution mechanisms to address their grievances and to do so within the provided timeframes and conditions in order for Liberia to continue to improve its electoral process.
EU observers were also happy. They said it was a largely peaceful and vibrant campaign in which fundamental freedoms were mostly respected. The vote was the first to take place in Liberia since the United Nations ended its peacekeeping mission there in 2018.
A well-handled electoral process took place in an atmosphere of mistrust against institutions. The electoral day showed Liberians' democratic commitment and was positively assessed by the EU election observation mission observers, but high turnout, cumbersome procedures and their implementation slowed the conducting of the polls.
The Election Commission has begun reporting preliminary results, with the final outcome to be announced within 15 days of the vote.
Liberia's Election Commission has begun reporting preliminary results, with the final outcome to be announced within 15 days of the vote. We shall continue to monitor events there and bring you updates as it unfolds. A break is up next. Not to worry, more stories. When we return, stay with us. Welcome back. And if you just tuned in, the program is Global Updates, where we bring you up to speed with events in the past week. To Zimbabwe now, the country has recorded 100 suspected deaths from cholera and more than 5,000 possible cases, prompting the government to impose restrictions to stop the spread of the disease.
There has been no running water in their homes for 4 days. So residents of Glenview, a Harare suburb, have to queue up at a community borehole. This suburb has been a hotspot in previous cholera outbreaks. People here are fearful the current contagion, which has seen 40 new cases confirmed in Harare in the past week, could hit their area hard.
The best way to protect ourselves is to use clean water. But we don't have enough clean water to meet all our needs. I have to walk a long distance, but I can only carry a few buckets.
The city council needs to increase water supply, otherwise we will lose many lives. Because there is no water in our homes, we have to gather here. Such gatherings are how the disease can spread even further.
The water they fetch here could also pose a risk.
As a result of also the best sewer pipes, most of the groundwater is now contaminated, and most of the bores in urban settings are also contaminated. So what it means is that as we can continue to treat people, but as long as they go back to the same environment that made them sick or that made them ill in the first place, unfortunately it becomes a vicious cycle.
Zimbabwe has experienced frequent cholera outbreaks since 2008 due to poor sanitation and an increase in unplanned high-density settlements. 100 suspected deaths and nearly 5,000 infections have been reported during the current outbreak. Masvingo province in the southeast of the country, where the highest number of deaths and infections have occurred, has put restrictions on social gatherings.
Now, as the Israel-Palestine war rages on, Palestine ambassador to Nigeria, Ambassador Abdallah Abu Shamesh, is calling on the international community to stand firm and uphold international laws against war crimes committed by Israel in his country. The ambassador says justice will only be served when the historical background of the conflict between Israel and Palestine is considered to resolve the long standoff.
But again, the call should be end the occupation, not only ceasefire. Israel should end its occupation to the Palestinian territory. This is the call that we should all stress on it. Israel should be abide by the international law. This is the call that every single state all around the world to say and to stand firm. Israel, it's time to you to be abide and to be under the international law and under, of course, international agreed instrument.
Now, Nigeria, along with several countries, have condemned the conflict and called for peace. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has warned against a spillover of the war, which he says will have devastating consequences.
I've been closely following dramatic events in Israel and Gaza. I will never forget the images of this supercharged cycle of violence and horror. I'm in continuous contact with leaders in the region with an immediate focus on several key priorities. We must avoid spillover of the conflict. I am concerned about the recent exchange of fire along the Blue Line and recent reported attacks from southern Lebanon. I appeal to all parties and those who have an influence over those parties to avoid any further escalation and spillover. I call for the immediate release of all Israeli hostages held in Gaza. Civilians must be protected at all times. International humanitarian law must be respected and upheld. About 220,000 Palestinians are now sheltered in 92 UNRWA facilities across Gaza. UN premises and all hospitals, schools and clinics must never be targeted. UN staff are working around the clock to support the people of Gaza, and I deeply regret that some of my colleagues have already paid the ultimate price. Crucial life-saving supplies, including fuel, food and water, must be allowed into Gaza. We need rapid and unimpeded humanitarian access now. I want to thank Egypt for its constructive engagement to facilitate humanitarian access through the Rafah crossing and to make the Al Arish airport available for critical assistance. There is no time to lose. Every moment counts.
Now, staying on the Israel-Palestinian conflict, reports say Gazans will face severe humanitarian crisis as the conflict rages on. Thousands of residents in Gaza have fled their homes to Egypt as Israeli forces launches airstrikes.
Walking through rubble of what was once his home, Azam Shamia is trying to collect and take as much food supplies as he can.
We left our homes thinking that we could return in an hour. We left our belongings, money, food, everything we owned. Now there are 50 people in the house without food, drink, water, or electricity. I do not know how we will provide food for our children. I'm searching here under the rubble for remains of lentils and rice until even a little for my children.
Shamia's home was completely damaged when Israeli warplanes targeted southern Rimal neighborhood with several airstrikes, pounding the whole area to the ground. The Gaza Strip has been under an Israeli blockade since 2007, shortly after Hamas won the elections and took power over Gaza. However, the blockade has been mitigated over the years.
We are civilians who have no connection to political organizations and do not belong to anyone. We returned here to find that our house had become rubble and the entire area had been destroyed. We have now become homeless and have nothing but the clothes we wear. I tried to find some food and things among the rubble of my house.
On Monday, Israel ordered a complete siege on Gaza, stopping electricity, fuel, water and food supplies from entering the coastal enclave, following Hamas's surprise attack on Israel over the weekend. For now, Gazans have to cope with the very little amounts of food supplies available in Gaza and prepare themselves for what could be the worst humanitarian crisis in its history.
We hope both sides in the conflict sheath their swords and peace returns to the region as soon as possible. We shall also continue to monitor the situation and bring you updates as it unfolds. To the United States now, where President Joe Biden recently expanded the Mexican border wall in a bid to forestall illegal migrants. However, residents of a border town is against the expansion of the border wall with Mexico, insisting it won't stop illegal crossings.
Rio Grande City, Texas, population a little over 14,000. Every part of this rural, mostly Mexican-American town is a reminder that it's near the border with Mexico. The local junior high is named after a Mexican-American music teacher and civil rights activist, Roque Guerra Jr. This rich combination of U.S. and Mexican cultures is on full display at this local restaurant called El Jaripeo. Manager Jose Luis Lerma, himself a migrant, makes certain his customers get authentic Mexican cuisine. The restaurant's walls demonstrate the mixture of these cultures. Lerma knows that the Biden administration is going ahead with plans to build another part of the border wall nearby.
Whether or not they build the wall, people will continue migrating to this side of the border. The real solution is for these countries to find ways to help people come here and improve their lives.
We've come to a local park named after Mexican-American entrepreneur Basilio Villarreal. It's a place where families and young people come to enjoy themselves. Resident Noemi Hernandez, a migrant from Mexico, says humans naturally seek to improve their lives.
People sacrifice so much to come here, including time with their families. They seek freedom and employment. We are Mexicans, and Mexicans want to get ahead in life.
This man, a migrant and petroleum industry worker, says he's not too worried about a new border wall.
With or without the wall, the people will come. We seek opportunities. We want to be where the money is.
Many others we spoke with here had no idea that in the coming days, construction will begin on yet another piece of the wall separating the United States from Mexico.
Now, on a lighter note, it might interest you to know a few things about Korean people, their pride in their country, and their respect to leaders despite tough times they had experienced in the past. In this next feature, North Korea showcases its 78th anniversary of the founding of its ruling party of Democratic People's Republic of Korea and its successes over the years. Take a look. Interesting. And that concludes this edition of the program Global Updates. You join us same time, same station for another interesting episode of the program. I am Abdul Salam. Jubril, many thanks for watching.